The night sky above Earth was never meant to burn. Yet tonight, it did.
Flashes of blue fire tore across the clouds as strange ships descended from the stars. The people of Earth had seen comets before, but not like this. These burned slow, gliding like living things, their trails glowing in eerie silver. And when the first one fell near the ocean, the world changed forever. Captain Ryan Hale watched from the coastal base, his eyes locked on the horizon. "That's not a meteor," he whispered. The radar screens behind him screamed with movement. "They're landing." No one believed it at first. Not until the sound came. A deep throbbing pulse that made the ground shake and the sea rise like it was breathing. Out of the smoke came shadows, tall, graceful figures wrapped in silver armor that shimmered like liquid. They were not human. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Ryan lifted his hand. "Hold your fire." One of the figures stepped forward. A woman's voice echoed through the air, soft and layered with strange music. "We come in peace," she said. "But your skies attacked us first." No one understood her words completely, but her tone carried sorrow, not anger. Then something exploded behind them, a human missile fired by mistake from another base. The shockwave threw sand and smoke into the air. When it cleared, the alien woman lay on the ground, her armor cracked, her people retreating back to the burning ship. Ryan ran forward. "Medic, get her out of the fire." But when he reached her, he stopped. Her skin, blue like deep ocean light, was glowing faintly under the smoke. She was bleeding silver. Her eyes fluttered open, wide and frightened, but still. "Beautiful, don't look at me," she whispered, voice trembling, almost broken. "Please, don't look." Ryan hesitated. "You're hurt. I have to help you." "Don't," she said again, her voice sharper this time. "If you see what I am, you'll hate me." Before he could answer, another blast came from the sea, more ships crashing, more lights. The war had begun, even though no one wanted it. Ryan carried her through the smoke toward an old bunker. He didn't know why. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was her eyes, the way they looked at him, not with hate but fear. He laid her on a steel table, trying to patch the strange wounds that shimmered like broken glass. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She looked at him for a long time, as if deciding whether she could trust a human at all. "Lyra," she said finally. "Princess of Velara." "Princess?" Ryan blinked. "Then why were you leading soldiers?" Her breath trembled. "Because my world has no kings left." Outside, thunder rolled, but it wasn't thunder. The sound was metallic, mechanical, the rhythm of war machines moving across the coast. Ryan looked through a crack in the bunker's door and saw fire spreading over the beach. The alien ships were fighting back now. Blue energy bolts hit tanks and aircraft, turning them into glowing ash. The air stank of ozone and burned metal. "You have to get out," Ryan said, "if they find you here." "They'll kill you too," she interrupted softly. He turned back to her. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. When he tried to lift her again, she flinched, her hand grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. "Don't touch me," she said. Ryan froze. "I'm trying to help." "You don't understand," she whispered. "My body, it's poison to humans." For a moment, the only sound was the hum of distant engines. Then quietly, Ryan said, "Then I'll wear gloves." Lyra looked at him in confusion. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" "Because I saw the look in your eyes," he replied. "That wasn't war. That was fear." Her expression softened. The walls around them shook as explosions came closer. The ground rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, silver lines tracing her cheeks like veins of light. "They think we came to conquer," she said. "But we came to hide. From something far worse," Ryan frowned. "Hide from what?" She opened her mouth to answer, but her body tensed, eyes wide with terror. A low growl filled the air outside, deeper than thunder, like metal grinding against stone. Ryan peeked outside. A massive black shape moved through the fire, too large, too fast. "Not human. Not one of her kind either," Lyra whispered weakly. "They found us." The bunker lights flickered. The creature's shadow loomed across the entrance, and Ryan realized this was not just an invasion. It was something else entirely. Something that even the aliens feared. The air outside the bunker trembled like the heartbeat of a dying world. Ryan could hear the creature move, slow, heavy steps crushing metal and stone. Its growl was deep and hollow, not like any machine or animal he had known. Lyra's breathing grew fast. She tried to stand, but her body shook with pain. "You must go," she whispered. "If it senses you, it will kill you." Ryan shook his head. "Not leaving you. You don't understand." Her voice cracked. "That thing isn't from my world. It hunts both of us." He grabbed a flashlight and turned it toward the doorway. The beam flickered, catching a glimpse of something moving through the smoke. Something tall and thin with arms like blades and eyes that burned red. It made no sound, but every step it took made the ground vibrate. Ryan whispered, "What is that?" Lyra closed her eyes. "A Reaver. We thought they died with our stars, but they followed us here." The word sent a chill through him. He didn't know what a Reaver was, but he didn't need to. The fear in her voice said enough. The creature stopped outside the bunker. The lights flickered again, then went dark. The air became thick, heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Ryan lifted his gun, though he knew bullets probably wouldn't matter. For a moment, there was silence. Then a sudden crash. The bunker door ripped from its hinges, thrown across the room like paper. The Reaver stood in the doorway, its body black and slick like oil, its face hidden behind a mask of metal. The red eyes blinked once, locking on Lyra. Ryan fired. The bullet sparked off its armor. It didn't even flinch. The creature's head turned slowly toward him, and before he could reload, it was already moving. Fast. Too fast. Lyra raised her hand weakly. A circle of blue light formed in front of her palm. The air rippled like water, and when the Reaver struck, it hit an invisible wall that exploded with blinding light. The shockwave threw Ryan back against the wall. When the dust cleared, the Reaver was gone, but the doorway was a crater of melted metal. Lyra collapsed, her energy gone. Ryan crawled toward her. "Hey, stay with me." Her voice was faint. "The barrier won't hold. Others will come. How many?" "Too many," she coughed, silver blood staining her lips. Her glow dimmed to a pale blue. Ryan tore open a first aid kit, but none of it looked like it would help someone like her. Still, he tried. Bandages, pressure, anything. Lyra watched him quietly. "Why are you helping me?" she asked again. Ryan looked at her. "Because you're alive. That's enough reason." Her eyes softened, and for the first time she almost smiled. "Humans are strange," he chuckled weakly. "You're not wrong." Outside, the distant sounds of battle faded. The night was strangely calm now. The air smelled like burned salt and rain. Through a crack in the bunker wall, moonlight poured in, white and cold. It touched Lyra's face, making her scars shimmer faintly. Ryan saw them for the first time. Deep, thin lines across her cheek and neck, glowing softly under her skin like threads of light. They weren't ugly. They were beautiful in a strange, painful way, but she turned her head away quickly. "Don't look at me," she said softly. "Not when I'm like this." "Like what?" "Broken." Ryan didn't answer. He reached out slowly and turned her face back toward him. "You're not broken," he said quietly. "You're surviving." She blinked, surprised by the kindness in his tone. "Your people won't think so. They'll see me as a monster. Then they'll have to look harder." For a moment, neither spoke. The moonlight flickered across her eyes, and something fragile passed between them, an understanding neither could explain. Then the radio crackled. Ryan grabbed it quickly. "Base command, this is Hale. Do you copy?" A burst of static, then a voice. "Captain, report. The aliens are retreating inland. What's your position?" Ryan looked at Lyra, then pressed the button. "I'm off the coast. No hostiles here. Good, hold your position. We're sending recovery teams." He let go of the radio, unsure what to do. If recovery teams arrived, they'd find Lyra. They'd take her away, maybe worse. She noticed the worry on his face. "You can't let them see me," she whispered. "They'll destroy me." "They're my people," Ryan said. "They're supposed to protect." Her eyes filled with quiet sadness. "So were mine." The words hung in the air like a ghost. A moment later, the sound of helicopters filled the sky. The light of their search beams cut through the smoke. Ryan looked at Lyra, then at the tunnel at the back of the bunker. "There's an old escape route through there. Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. "I'll try." He helped her up, wrapping his jacket around her glowing skin to hide the light. The two of them moved through the narrow tunnel, their footsteps echoing softly. Behind them, soldiers landed at the bunker, their voices sharp and urgent. Ryan didn't look back. As they stepped out into the forest, the moonlight spilled over the trees, silver and soft. Lyra stopped, breathing hard, looking up at the sky. So beautiful, she murmured. Even after war, your world still shines. Ryan watched her quietly. You sound like someone who's lost everything. She nodded slowly. I have. Somewhere in the distance, a Reaver screamed, a sound like metal tearing through glass. Lyra's face went pale. They won't stop, she said. Not until every world burns. Ryan gripped his weapon and looked toward the sound. Then we stop them. Like metal tearing through glass. Lyra's face went pale. They won't stop, she said. Not until every world burns. Ryan gripped his weapon and looked toward the sound. Then we stop them. Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. You would fight for me? I'd fight for peace, he said simply. And right now, that means fighting for you. The trees rustled in the wind, and for the first time that night, the alien princess smiled. The forest was silent except for the sound of footsteps and distant thunder. The sky still glowed faintly from the fires at the coast, but here, beneath the tall trees, the world felt quiet and strange. Ryan led the way, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Lyra followed slowly, her steps unsteady. Each movement seemed to cost her pain, but she never complained. Are you sure you can walk? Ryan asked. She nodded. I've walked through worse nights. The path was narrow, overgrown with vines and roots. Once, Ryan had used this route for training missions. Now it felt like a path to another world. They finally stopped beside a small stream. The moonlight reflected on the water, turning it silver. Lyra knelt down and touched the surface gently. The light from her fingers made ripples glow faintly blue. Ryan watched her for a moment. You're bleeding again, she looked down. The wound on her shoulder was still glowing softly beneath the fabric. It's nothing, she said. It's not nothing. He tore a strip of cloth from his sleeve and wrapped it around her arm. She watched him quietly. Your people. You heal differently, Ryan said. Lyra nodded. Our blood carries light. It keeps our hearts alive even when the body fails. That sounds painful. It is, she whispered, but it reminds us we're still alive. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of running water filled the silence. Then Ryan looked at her again. You said the Reavers followed you. Why, what do they want? Lyra's eyes lowered. They want our stars, he frowned. Your stars? She nodded. They feed on energy, life, everything that shines. My people once thought we could control them. We were wrong. They destroyed our worlds one by one. We fled to find shelter among the living worlds. And Earth was one of them, Ryan said quietly. Yes, your planet's energy is pure, it burns bright. They will come for it next. Ryan stared into the dark trees. The idea of something hunting entire planets felt impossible, but he had seen that creature's eyes. He believed her. We'll warn the base, he said. We can fight them together. Lyra shook her head. Humans can't fight them. Not with your weapons. Then how do we stop them? She looked at him with sadness in her eyes. You can't. You can only survive. The hopelessness in her voice hit him hard. Ryan had spent years in war zones, but this was different. This wasn't about borders or nations. This was survival of entire worlds. He sat beside her on the riverbank. Maybe you're right, he said softly. But running won't save anyone. You came to our planet. That means you saw something here worth saving. She looked at him silent. Her eyes caught the moonlight and seemed to glow faintly silver. I saw kindness, she said at last. Your world is still young. You fight each other, but you also protect. You love, you forgive. My people lost that long ago. Ryan smiled faintly. We're not perfect. Perfection is a lie, she said quietly. Hope isn't. Before Ryan could answer, a sudden noise echoed through the trees, a metallic clicking sound, faint but sharp. Lyra froze. Reaver Scout, she whispered. Ryan turned off the flashlight instantly. They both crouched low, hiding behind the thick roots of an old tree. The forest grew still. Then a shadow moved between the trunks, tall, angular, and glowing faintly red at the joints. The Reaver was smaller than the one from before, but faster. It scanned the area with a narrow beam of red light, slicing across the trees like a blade. Ryan held his breath. The beam stopped near the stream. A moment later, the Reaver stepped closer, sniffing the air, or maybe listening. Its movements were too smooth, too silent. It didn't walk like something alive. Ryan looked at Lyra. She raised her hand slowly, gathering a soft glow in her palm. No, he mouthed. Too bright, she hesitated, then nodded. Instead, she whispered something in her language. a soft haunting sound that made the air around them vibrate. The Reaver froze. Its light flickered, confused. Then, as if hearing something far away, it turned and walked back into the dark. Ryan let out the breath he'd been holding. "What did you do?" "I called to its memory," she said softly. "Reavers were not always monsters. They were once our guardians." He stared at her. "You created them?" Her eyes darkened. "My ancestors did, and I carry their guilt." For a long moment, Ryan didn't know what to say. Then he said quietly, "You're not them." "Tell that to the dead worlds," she murmured. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of smoke. Ryan looked toward the horizon. "We can't stay here. If they're tracking you, this whole forest won't be safe." Lyra nodded weakly. "There's an old place to the north. Our ship crashed there. I can reach it if we hurry." He helped her stand again. "Then we move before sunrise." They walked through the forest, the moonlight following them like a ghost. The world was silent except for their footsteps and the quiet hum of Lyra's fading energy. As they reached the edge of the trees, Ryan looked back once more. Behind them, far away through the smoke and darkness, he saw red lights moving. Dozens of them. The Reavers were hunting again. He tightened his grip on his weapon and turned toward the hills. "We'll make it," he said. "One step at a time." Lyra looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "You sound so sure." "I have to," he said. "For both of us." The two figures, one human, one alien, disappeared into the mist, leaving behind a world that no longer belonged only to mankind. And somewhere high above, among the stars, more Reaver ships began to stir. The night was fading when they finally reached the northern hills. The sky was turning pale gray and cold wind rushed through the valley. Smoke still hung over the far horizon where the ocean burned. Ryan led the way, his boots sinking into the wet grass. Lyra followed close behind, her steps slow but steady. She no longer glowed as brightly. The light in her veins had dimmed to a faint shimmer. At the top of the ridge, Ryan stopped. "You said your ship crashed here?" Lyra nodded weakly. Below, hidden by the trees. When they reached the valley floor, Ryan saw it, half buried under rock and vines, an enormous silver structure like a broken crescent moon. The alien ship was silent now, but its surface still reflected the faint light of dawn. Lyra's eyes filled with pain. "That was the royal vessel of Velara," she said softly. "It carried my people, and our last hope." Ryan scanned the area carefully. No movement. But we shouldn't stay in the open. They entered through a broken section of the hull. Inside, the ship was cold and dark. The walls still glowed faintly with strange runes that shifted like living symbols. Ryan touched one and it pulsed under his fingers. "What is this?" he asked. "Our memory metal," Lyra said. "It remembers our hands. It remembers pain." The silence in the ship felt heavy, filled with the ghosts of those who never escaped. As they walked deeper, they passed through corridors littered with shattered armor and broken glass spheres. Some held ashes that glowed faintly blue. Ryan looked away. He could tell what they were. Remains. "Your people died here," he said quietly. Lyra's voice trembled. "They died saving me." She stopped beside a control chamber. A cracked sphere sat in the center, once shining, now dull. She placed her hand on it and a faint hum filled the air. Blue light rippled across the walls and the ship came alive again. Weak, flickering, but alive. Ryan's eyes widened. "You can still power it?" "Only for a short time," she said. "But maybe long enough to call for help." As she spoke, a screen flickered to life. Strange symbols appeared, shifting into a language Ryan couldn't read. Then suddenly a voice echoed through the chamber, a deep metallic tone that made the air vibrate. Lyra froze. "No," she whispered. "It's them," the voice repeated again, cold and mechanical. "Signal traced. Target located." Ryan looked at her sharply. "Reavers?" She nodded. They found the beacon. The ship's heart chamber pulsed like a dying star. Every wall glowed faint blue, cracked with light that bled like liquid fire. The air was heavy with heat and the metallic smell of smoke. Ryan led the way, his rifle ready. Behind him, Lyra walked carefully, her steps weak but steady, her glow returning as she drew power from the ship itself. The two human soldiers followed, fear on their faces. From deep within the tunnels, the Reavers' mechanical growls echoed closer. The sound was endless, hundreds of them, maybe more. Ryan stopped near the core. It was a sphere of light suspended in midair, rotating slowly. Tiny threads of energy flowed out like veins connecting to the walls. Lyra looked at it with pain in her eyes. "That is the last heart of Valara," she whispered. "It was made to give life, not take it." Ryan stared at the glowing sphere. "Can it be destroyed?" She hesitated. "Yes, but the explosion will consume this valley. No one will survive." He nodded slowly. "Then we buy time. You set the overload. I'll hold them off." Lyra looked at him sharply. "You'll die. Someone has to." She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You humans always talk about dying for something. Does life mean so little to you?" Ryan smiled faintly. "It means everything. That's why I fight." The ground shook violently. A section of the ceiling collapsed behind them, cutting off the exit. Dust filled the air. Red lights flickered at the far end of the chamber. The Reavers were here. "Positions!" Ryan shouted. The soldiers took cover behind broken panels. Ryan fired at the first Reaver that appeared, but his bullets only slowed it. Lyra raised her hand, sending a wave of blue energy that ripped through 3 of them. The light exploded across the room, but she staggered afterward, exhausted. "Keep going," Ryan yelled. "Don't stop the overload!" She turned to the console, her fingers moving across alien symbols that glowed under her touch. The ship responded, humming louder. The core's light grew brighter, almost too bright to look at. The Reavers advanced, climbing over wreckage like shadows of metal and death. One lunged forward, its blade arm swinging toward Ryan. He ducked, firing point blank into its face. Sparks burst and the creature fell, twitching. The younger soldier screamed as another Reaver grabbed him. Ryan spun, shot twice, and pulled the soldier free. "Stay down!" he shouted. Lyra's voice echoed through the chamber. "The core is almost ready." "How long?" Ryan called back. 5 minutes. That's too long." He threw a grenade down the hallway. The explosion lit up the walls, tearing apart several Reavers, but more replaced them. Their red eyes glowed brighter now, like burning coals. The second soldier fired his last magazine. "We're out of ammo." Ryan gritted his teeth. "Then use whatever you have left." The room trembled again. One of the walls split open, revealing a massive Reaver, larger than the others, its body covered in armor like molten stone. Its eyes blazed red. Lyra gasped. "A prime." The creature roared, its voice a metallic echo that made the air shake. It charged forward, smashing through debris. Ryan and the soldiers opened fire, but it didn't slow. "Lyra, hurry," Ryan shouted. She pressed her glowing hands against the console. The light from her body spread through the ship, merging with the veins of energy. Her skin shimmered, the glow now blinding. The prime Reaver swung its arm, sending Ryan flying into the wall. His vision blurred. Pain shot through his ribs. He tried to stand, but his legs trembled. The prime turned toward Lyra, raising its blade to strike. "No!" Ryan shouted. He ran forward, tackling the creature from the side. His weapon clattered to the floor. He grabbed a steel rod from the debris and slammed it into the Reaver's chest. Sparks burst, but it wasn't enough. The Reaver threw him across the room again. Lyra turned, her voice soft but full of power. "You shouldn't have done that, human." Her eyes glowed pure silver now. She raised both hands toward the prime. The light around her became brighter, swirling like a storm. The Reaver hesitated, its sensors flickering. Then Lyra released the energy. A blinding wave exploded from her body, slamming into the prime. The creature screamed as its armor melted away, its red eyes fading to black. When the light cleared, it collapsed, motionless. Lyra fell to her knees, breathing hard. Her glow faded. Ryan crawled toward her, coughing. "You okay?" She looked at him weakly. "The core is ready. Once it reaches full charge, everything ends." Ryan looked around. The soldiers were gone, buried under rubble or lost in smoke. Only he and Lyra remained. He helped her stand. "We can still escape through the upper vents," he said. She shook her head slowly. "No. The sequence must be controlled manually. If I leave, it will stop." Ryan froze. "Then I'll do it." She smiled sadly. "The ship won't listen to you. It remembers only my blood." He clenched his fists. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," she whispered. "My world created this monster. Let my life end with it." Ryan stepped closer. "No, you don't die here." "Not like this." Her eyes met his. "You would stay with me knowing what happens next?" He nodded. "If we die doing something that matters." For a moment, everything was silent except for the hum of the growing light. Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing his hand. "You are strange, human. Brave and foolish." Ryan smiled faintly. "I've been called worse." The core pulsed faster now, its glow filling the chamber with white light. Lyra closed her eyes. When it's done, everything will be clean again. No more Reavers. No more fear. Ryan tightened his grip on her hand. Then let's make it count. The ground shook violently as more Reavers poured into the room. But this time they stopped, frozen by the rising energy. The walls cracked, beams of light shooting through every opening. Lyra looked at Ryan one last time. Thank you. For seeing me, he whispered, always. And then the world became light. The explosion swallowed the valley like a rising sun. For a moment everything was pure white. No sound, no pain, only light. The air itself burned with energy, and the mountains trembled as the ancient ship of Velara turned to dust and light. When the light faded, silence returned. The fire died, the smoke lifted, and the sea wind carried the ashes of two worlds away into the sky. For a long time, nothing moved. Then, a spark. A faint shimmer of blue among the ruins. From beneath the broken stones, a hand pushed through the dust. Human, burned, but alive. Ryan gasped for breath as he crawled out, coughing. The world around him was gone, just a crater of glass and melted rock. The alien ship was no more. He looked around wildly. Lyra, only silence answered. The air shimmered with heat. He stumbled forward, half blind from the blast, calling her name again. Lyra! No reply. He sank to his knees, the weight of loss hitting him like gravity itself. He had seen soldiers die, cities fall, but this felt different. It felt like the stars themselves had gone dark. Then something caught his eye. In the center of the crater, where the ship's core had once been, a faint light still glowed, soft silver blue. He walked toward it slowly. The closer he came, the warmer the air felt. In the ashes, he found it, a small crystal sphere, cracked but still glowing. Inside it, faint shapes moved, strands of energy dancing like a heartbeat. Ryan picked it up carefully. The light pulsed once, and then a familiar voice, soft and calm, whispered through the air. Human. He froze. Lyra? The light brightened, and her voice came again, quiet, almost like a memory. I kept my promise. The Reavers are gone. Ryan's throat tightened. You're alive? Not as I was, she said. The core joined with me. My body is gone, but my mind remains. He looked at the sphere, his reflection trembling in the glow. Then you saved us all. Lyra's voice smiled through the light. No, Ryan. We saved them. Together. He sat there in the ruins, holding the crystal close, unsure if he should cry or laugh. The wind blew softly, carrying the faint scent of salt and ash. What happens now? He asked quietly. Her voice grew softer, like a dream fading. Your people will rebuild. My people will live in your sky now. When you see the stars, remember us. Ryan closed his eyes. I will. The light pulsed one last time. Goodbye. Human. Then it dimmed, leaving only a faint silver glow that flickered like a heartbeat, then faded into the dawn. Hours later, military rescue teams arrived. The valley was gone, replaced by a crater that shimmered faintly blue, as if touched by starlight. Ryan sat at the edge, wrapped in a torn jacket, staring at the horizon. When the soldiers found him, he didn't speak at first. A medic knelt beside him. Captain Hale, are you injured? He shook his head slowly. No, just tired. They led him away, but before he left, he looked back one last time. In the crater's center, a single flower had begun to grow, its petals glowing faintly blue under the morning sun. He smiled. She's still here. Weeks passed. The war was declared over. The governments called it the Velara event. Officially, it was described as a failed alien attack repelled by human defense forces. But Ryan knew the truth. There had been no victory, only sacrifice. He was reassigned, but he never spoke about what really happened. Sometimes at night he would look up at the sky and see a faint cluster of new stars, bright blue ones that hadn't been there before. They shimmered like tears frozen in space, and sometimes when the wind was quiet he thought he could still hear her voice. Don't look at me, human, she had said once. But now he understood what she meant. It wasn't shame. It was fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of being loved when the world was made of war. He whispered softly into the night. I saw you, Lyra, I always did. The stars above flickered gently, as if answering. Many years later, explorers found traces of the Valara crystal buried deep in the crater. Scientists called it Starstone. It emitted gentle warmth and glowed when touched by kindness. They built memorials there, not to war but to unity. On the plaque were engraved simple words. Here, a human and an alien stood together to save the light of all worlds, and every night, the valley shimmered faintly under the moonlight, not with destruction, but with peace. Because even after the war, even after the loss, one truth remained unbroken. Hope never dies.